as we see that field. Agnes Ngetich in particular, the 23-year-old Ken, is going for a women's only world record. That would be a race where there are no men involved, obviously. There's a female pacemaker for perhaps 4 or 5K, and that world record is 30 minutes and 1 second. Could we see this morning the first ever sub-30-minute women's only road 10K? Agnes Tirop, the late Agnes Tirop, died in October 2021. She was murdered, actually. Very, very sad news. And a foundation has been set up called Tirop's Angels in her memory to increase respect for the female wives of top runners in Kenya. Well, Agnes Ngetich going for that record, we understand, this morning. Look out too for several of her compatriots who are in wonderful form. Faith Chepkoech as well as run 31:03. And of course we will identify these athletes for you as they get underway. Chepkoech, Faith Chepkoech, by the way, is a bit of a road 10K specialist. She's done 5 already this year, including 4 in the 31-minute range. She actually trains with Faith Kipyegon. Does that ring any bells? It should do, because she's set 3 world records this year. And her strength at 5,000 and her dominance at 1,500 mile has been quite astonishing. Kipyegon, of course, winning the world title in Budapest just some 3 weeks ago, over 1,500 meters. So we are in Brașov, as you can see, everything sparkling and shiny new here in this glorious Sunday morning sunlight. The athletes on the line and ready to go. And obviously we'll describe the athletes for you more as they get going. Sheila Ruto is in there as well. Runs for Romania. She's a 32-minute athlete, was 7th here last year. Last year, by the way, the results were quite spectacular here in Brașov. It really did stamp the race on the consciousness of the road running world. As we see him about to get underway, Sheila Chepkirui winning last year in 30:07, one of the fastest times ever for a road 10K for the women. And Nicholas Kipkore Kimeli winning the men's race in 26:51. The first 3 men last year going under 27 minutes. It's a super fast course, and the athletes are up for it this morning. I understand from conversations at breakfast, they really are ready to go hard here. Wasn't the case last night in the mile races. They were very, very conservative in the men's race in particular last night, and when a world record was beckoning. But here we go. Underway then. It's our second edition of the Brașov Running Festival, Women's 10K on this Sunday morning. Coloured smoke clouds the air as the athletes get underway. Thankfully, they won't be having to run through that too much. So they set on the first of these 3 laps, which, as I said, is 3,012 meters this first lap. We will be giving you splits as often as we can. We have timing mats out on the course, although they are at slightly irregular positions in 1 or 2 places. For example, the first one is at 1.5 kilometers, then at 3K, 5K, 6.5 and 8.5K. So I'll be able to extrapolate, I hope, from the splits that come through to us at those points, what sort of schedule they're on. But they look to have headed off at a pretty tasty pace here. The conditions are good, there's very slight wind, and they are taking full advantage of it in the early seconds here. The pacemaker, well, that's Diana Cerotic, who trains with Agnes Ngetich, the pre-race favourite. Only 19 years old, though, Cerotic. And pacemakers, of course, in track races and road races have a huge responsibility. The idea is that they lay down a nice steady tempo at an agreed pace and take away the psychological and, to an extent, the physical burden of making the pace for the main pack, those who are going to carry on the race. Having said that, the pacemakers today, as in the mile races last night, are able to finish if they want. Each race director can make up his own rules in that regard, but Daniel Santa has done a fantastic job here in his hometown of organising this race weekend, has decided that pacemakers can finish, should they so choose, these races over this weekend. Cerotic, she's never run a 10K road race before. She's run 15:16 on the track. That actually was back in early June this year. And I understand she will go to about 4K or 5K if she can manage it. The race, incidentally, was started by Joan Chalimo, who is a former Kenyan, now represents Romania, lives in a rather glorious city about half an hour from here called Covasna, where I understand, and whisper this, King Charles has a little gaff and likes to come away for quiet unmolested by the media. Little breaks here in Romania, because this is a real hidden gem, this part of the Carpathian Mountains. We're off this afternoon to see Bran Castle, a spectacular castle that is associated with the legend of Count Dracula, Bram Stoker and all that. Have a quick Google. Other surfing networks are available. But if you Google Bran Castle, you'll see what I'm on about. It is quite marvellous. And a new airport has opened here in Brașov over the last few weeks, which enables people to fly in from a few venues, including the UK. I think from Luton, actually, you can pop here. So next year, maybe put this in your diaries for early September, the Brașov Running Festival. Well, this tempo is clearly very, very fast indeed. They've been running less than 3.5 minutes, and the field is breaking up already. And it is a field of very high caliber. There's plenty of athletes here who can run under 31 minutes, and certainly under 32 minutes as well. There are some Romanians and a Bulgarian and a Belgian in this field as well. They weren't expected to stay at the front end very long, but boy, oh boy, are they shifting now. Joy Cheptoyek in the white vest to left of picture, nearest the camera there. He's got that right hamstring strapped. I hope that's going to be okay. 21-year-old. She's a Ugandan, by the way, Cheptoyek. Has a personal best set in February this year of 30:47. Anything under 32 minutes is world class. Anything under 31 minutes is supreme world class. You really are up in the rarefied air of the very best in the world. I'm not sure what that block is in the middle of the road. Maybe a bit of street furniture. But anyway, it does look very much like Diana Ngetich doing a fabulous job out in front. She's tall, isn't she? Long stride to right of picture there. I'm just looking there. I think it's Catherine Relin in the orange vest and blue shorts in the centre of picture, the 21-year-old Kenyan making her debut. Christine Njoki Nalimo. In fact, it is, I think, I saw the C on her bib. Is that Christine in the orange? And if that is right, well, she's just 24 years old, lives in E10, the town of runners, where so many of the very best athletes do live and train in Kenya. They come from all over Kenya to base themselves there. There's so much coaching knowledge there. There's a good running track as well. By the way, they've gone through 1,500 meters. Wait for it, in 4:12. 1.5 kilometers in 4:12. Super fast here in Brașov in the early stages. That means they'll have gone through the mile in something like 4:35. It's incredibly aggressive running. Perhaps too aggressive, I reckon. They've gone through 1.5 kilometers in 4:12. What does that make their first kilometer? Something like, I don't know, 250? Wow. And if they were hitting 250 pace, well, they're on schedule to run an almost suicidal 28:15. Catherine Relin, yes, I thought it was Catherine Relin. Trains with a certain Bridget Kosgei. If that name is familiar to you, that's because Bridget Kosgei is the world record holder in the marathon since Chicago 2019. Bridget Kosgei now a legend of the sport, very much a specialist marathon runner. And Relin there in the orange, running 4 times a half marathon last year. A little bit inconsistent. She ran 68, 72, 68 and 67 minutes. I mean, all very fast. Remember, at the half marathon for women, anything under 70 minutes is considered international class. But Agnes Ngetich well, these three are away, and a great shot from the drone there. It is Agnes Ngetich at the front, and I don't know what's happened to Diana Ngetich, who was supposed to be the pacemaker, but it is Agnes Ngetich who has, from the gun, charged off on these streets of Brașov in this opening loop of just over 3 kilometers, and has ripped the field asunder. Within a few hundred meters, big gaps were appearing, And now she is away, and the only athlete that's able to stay with her is Catherine Relin. The pacemaker is back in the second group, we understand. But this from Agnes Ngetich is a huge statement of intent in the first 7 or 8 minutes. You have to be full of confidence, and so she should be. Such is the caliber of Ngetich here. There she checks her watch. She's thinking on her feet. That's good to see. She is so strong. Third in the world cross-country in Bathurst, back on the 18th of 2nd down in Australia. She had a supreme run there to make the rostrum. And let me tell you that every race she's run this year, that's about 7 races, every single race she's run a personal best. And when I saw that stat in my preparations last night, I was astonished. I don't think I've ever seen that from an athlete before. She was second in the Kenyan World Championship trials for 10,000 meters back in early July, then ran in Budapest at those World Championships. They go through the eventual finish line there with 8.5 minutes on the clock, and she is shifting. She is absolutely flying. We'll get a 3-kilometer split very shortly, and it's just come through 3K 8:32. Can you believe it? Now let me tell you what that means if she were to maintain this tempo, and I cannot believe that she will, but 8:32 would bring her home in 28:25. I'm a little worried, I must admit, because I think she's overcooking it here. Turn the gas down. Just ease back on the throttle a little bit. I'm sure she'll be getting advice from the sidelines, from coaches and agents and other knowledgeable individuals around her. She's dragging Catherine Relin here in second place in the orange out to what is almost a suicidal pace, 8:33 for Relin. And I cannot believe they'll be able to sustain this for very long. It's just not possible. If they do, they'll break the world record by something like a minute. Women's only world record. Joyce Cheptoyek there, obviously going well. And you can see could see there the splits for the elite athletes at 3K. But Ngetich here, as she goes through the start line, that completes 1 lap. 10:01 then, for that first lap of 3,000, well, it's more than 3,012 meters actually. There it is again, just got that back up for you. There are the splits for these elite women at 3K, and those, I'm sure, in themselves are unique. I don't think anybody has ever gone out in 8:32 for the first 3K of a road 10K in a mixed race, never mind about a women's only race. But Ngetich has got the bit between her teeth, and now even Catherine Relin is having to let go. She's only 21, Relin, relatively inexperienced. She is strong though. She ran a fabulous half marathon back on the 19th of February. That was a 65.5-minute timing in Barcelona, down in Spain, where she finished in 3rd place. Here is Ngetich, though. Well, as I said, on the 19th of August, which is what, about 3 weeks ago, almost exactly 3 weeks ago, she finished 6th in the World Championships 10,000 in that sweltering heat. I mean, the conditions were far from conducive to quick running in Budapest, in the Hungarian capital. And yet she ran 31:34 there, which tells me that, well, the conditions were worth a huge number of seconds, probably 30, 45 seconds, maybe more. There is the form of Catherine Relin. She's a nice-looking mover, isn't she, Relin? Long, long legs, tiny torso, wonderful power-to-weight ratio. But this is going to be tough for her because she's lost contact now with Ngetich, which means she's redlining. That gap is, what, about 20, 25 meters between the leader and Ngetich and Relin. And she's going to have to manage her resources very well here, Relin, if she's not going to fold over this next 20 minutes or so. Mind you, so is Ngetich, because she checks her watch again there, so she knows what she's doing. She will, I'm sure, have been told what sort of splits to be hitting at 3K and 5K and all those significant points on her journey to the finish line. And yet she's maintaining it at the moment. 8:32 at 3K after an opening 1,500. I'm told actually it was exactly 1,506 meters of 4:12. So effectively she ran about 4:11 for the first 1500. And here's the third placer, Joy Cheptoyek of Uganda. Cheptoyek, again, it will be a lonely journey for the 21-year-old. Her personal best 30:47. She's probably set off at a pace way inside that, now settling down to something more realistic. She's only a 75-minute half marathon runner, although that was in Nairobi 18 months or so ago. The thin air of Nairobi, of course, anywhere at altitude makes distance running, any aerobic activity, much, much harder. But here we are in Brașov, and I think around 800 meters, 900 meters altitude. So there's a slight altitude factor here in Brașov, but nothing that will trouble these East Africans who spend all year, of course, up in training in Eldoret or E10, up in the rarefied air of the Kenyan Rift Valley region. Well, 5.5 kilometers, still only 13.5 minutes on the clock. Oh, 5.5 kilometers to go. Excuse me, that's counting now. I was going to say, that would be pretty impressive. So they reached 4.5 kilometers in about 13:40, something like that. Well, her personal best, Agnes Ngetich, that 30:27 was run in Herzogenaurach, the headquarters of her sponsor, Adidas, also one of the sponsors of this weekend's racing. That was a third place. Back on the 29th of April, I was at those races on the super fast circuit around the Adidas campus, and Ngetich there, I think, by the looks of things, has grown in stature since April. She was third there, but today, barring disaster, she's heading for a victory, but just by how much? She's been sponsored, by the way, since she was 16, Agnes Ngetich. Here we see that rear view of Catherine Relin. Forward-leaning style. She's quite an accentuated forward lean, but she's a lovely, smooth mover. All the work going on in the shoulders. The upper half of her body actually looks busy, doesn't it, compared with her bottom half. But she's got a long, raking stride, as Catherine Relin, and she's moving really well. She's strong, we know that. Used to running half marathons. I mentioned she ran 4 half marathons last year, a 67 and a couple of 68-minute runs amongst those. So this for her is speed work, I suppose you could say. Maybe a young athlete. She is only 21, Relin, in second place. Maybe an athlete with a big future at the marathon. Ngetich here. Well, she's just gone through 5K. Wait for it, in 14:25. 14:25 for 5K. That is super fast on the track for 5,000 meters. On the roads for 5 kilometers, it's incredibly quick. And for a 5-kilometer split during a 10K, it is quite astonishing, unprecedented, in my opinion. I'm just going to check what the world best for 5K on the roads is. I'll bring that for you as quickly as I can. The internet here in our cabin, just by the finish line. Unofficially, 15:14, I'm told, at 5K, and that the splits are wrong. Well, that's unusual because the computer here, there we go, 14:25 at 5K. So we'll go with that. Relin 14:35, and Cheptoyek, what, another 14 seconds back, and then Dinah Cheretich and Viola Chepengano having their own little battle there, still running at a fantastically fast pace. I mean, Cheretich and Chepengano, if they maintain that tempo, they're going to finish in about 30:40. That is super quick. And then the others, Faith Chepkoech and others, moving really well on these flat roads of Brașov. It is just gone 10:15 local time. The temperature is climbing, so I'm not going to say that the temperature is going to be a challenge for these athletes over this next hour or so. The men, of course, coming after these women. The men go off at 10:40. The local time here in Brașov is still only around 20 degrees centigrade. But Ngetich here, powering on, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to threaten the all-time world record for this distance, which is 29:14. If she maintains this tempo, she's on world record pace. The world record 29:14 set in Castellón in Spain in February last year by Ethiopia's Yalamzerf Yehualo, where Yehualo running that 29.14, has been on a bit of a charge this last couple of years. But can it be that a mixed race, 10 kilometers for women, is going to be bettered in this women's only race? And I say women's only race, I should really be saying Agnes Ngetich only, because this is a solo run. She might as well be on her own from the gun. She's led every single step of the way. And to do this, to run in this manner, to lead from the gun, to blast off at world record tempo through the first half of a road race like this over 10K, you've got to have supreme confidence in your ability to sustain the tempo. That stride is still strong, still looking good. 18 minutes on the clock. She's got about 12 minutes to go. Something like that. Let's hope she can hold it together. It would be horrible if she did to begin to fold in the last third of this race. There is the second placer, Catherine Relin. 65 minutes she's run for the half marathon, one of the quickest in the world this year. That, as I said, was in Barcelona. And then she had a great 10,000 meters at the Kenyan trials, of course, up in altitude in Nairobi. That was back in early July. She ran 31.54, which is fabulous running at altitude, but wasn't selected for Budapest, despite that third place, because she didn't have the qualifying time for Budapest. And you'd think, wouldn't you, that maybe the authorities could take the altitude factor into account. Here is the leader, mind you, Agnes Ngetich, moving past the start-finish area. The crowd's roaring her on here. Still looks calm, doesn't she? She's not really sweating up. Thinking on her feet still, checks her watch. Going through there with 1 lap to run is Relin. 6.5K in 18.54. And the 5K split, remember, if you just joined us in the last few minutes, 14.25. Well, they are on an astonishingly quick tempo. I'm just trying to figure out 14.25, what they would have gone through 6K in. Probably about 17 minutes. Yeah, about 17.20, something like that. So if they went through 6K in 17.20, she has a 20-second lead, by the way, now, Ngetich. But if she did go through in 17.20, she's heading for a winning time of around 29 minutes. I mean, this is unbelievable. We are seeing unprecedented pace being laid down here on the streets of Brașov on this glorious Sunday morning, the 10th of September 2023. There are the splits. Agnes Ngetich leads by, what, some 18 seconds, 16 seconds, no, 18 seconds at 6.5K. Relin, in turn, a further 22 seconds back to Chepchoyek. And as you can see, Dina Cheretich on 19.57, just over a minute down. So, because the early tempo was so aggressive, every one of these athletes in this, certainly the top half dozen, is having to run solo, having to run a very, very hard way around these streets. The only good thing is that the road surface is absolutely superb. This is a new estate. Remember, I said at the beginning that this whole area of the city to the northeast of Brașov used to be a giant factory, a giant tractor factory back in the days of communism. Well, that has been done away with. I don't know if it's because of the quality of the tractors or what, but anyway, it's been razed to the ground, and this rather glorious city complex, sort of all-encompassing, comprehensive community of apartment blocks and offices and shops, and one or two little bars, I have to admit, dotted around this area, is rather spectacular. The roads are dead flat, the roads are high quality, there are roundabouts and bike lanes, and it's all very, very user-friendly. And this is my first trip to Romania, not been here before. It's not what I was expecting. Long drive from Bucharest to get up here into the mountains a couple of days ago. But wow, what an eye-opener it's been to see Brașov and this rather glorious area to the northeast of the city centre. Well, the mile races last night were perhaps a little disappointing because the athletes didn't grab the opportunity with both hands. There was a chance of a world record in the men's mile. 4:01 was the target. It was relatively easy for what was a high-caliber field pulled together here by Daniel Santa. But they ran 4:05. They didn't get close to that world record mark, and they will never get a better opportunity in their lives, that men's mile field. It was quite a shame that they didn't really go for it. But Catherine Relin here in second place. Now she's feeling the pressure. 22 minutes on the clock, and she had a little glance over her shoulder there. That's always very telling. Relin, the shoulders just beginning to rock from side to side a little bit more. No wonder she's under pressure. She's running at a supreme tempo. The next split we get will be 8.5K, and that is, as you can see, about 700 meters away, so only a couple of minutes away. Relin here, still with that long stride of hers, although maybe the cadence has slowed a little bit, the rate of turnover not quite so good. Now we go back to the leader, Agnes Ngetich, and she really is shifting. She's still maintaining a high tempo. I think we could be seeing, whisper it, I'm not going to whisper it, you can whisper it to everybody else in the house. I think we could be seeing a world record unfolding here. Maybe a women's only world record, and maybe in slightly larger letters, a women world record, all-out world record. The world record for women under any conditions is 29:14. And she's on tempo to break that at the moment with a couple of kilometers to go. The world record for a women-only 10 kilometers on the roads, and that's what this is this morning, is 30:01. It would be wonderful if she could get under the world record. Wonderful if she could get under 30 minutes. That's almost one and the same for a women's only 10K. And how close can she get to that women's out-and-out world record of 29:14 by Yahualo of Ethiopia, set, well, about 18 or 20 months ago, set in Spain in February last year. Spain, of course, offers athletes wonderful racing conditions, particularly in the early months of the year when it's rather like a British spring. It's about 18, 20 degrees, rather glorious. February in Castellón. I'm not sure where Castellón is in Spain. Near Barcelona, I'm being told here by my trusty assistant, Phil Minchell, who's peering over my shoulder. Phil obviously helping out with little bits of information here and there, and Phil writing the press releases for this rather spectacular weekend, the Brașov Running Festival of 2023. 1.6 kilometers to go, so she's almost at the 8.5 kilometer point. We'll get splits then. But Agnes Ngetich has just got to hold it together for another 5 minutes or so. Can she do that? Every race she's run this year has been a personal best. Surely here this morning she's going to smash her current personal best for 10K on the road, which is 30:27. Here is the second placer, still going brilliantly, Catherine Relin, making her debut at 10K, and this surely will be a world record debut, a world best debut for the 21-year-old. She has learned a great deal from Bridget Kozgai, coached by Eric Kimayo in Capsite, I should say. Bridget Kozgai, who has accrued so much knowledge over the years to run to that astonishing 2:14 clocking in Chicago, smashed Paula Radcliffe's long-standing world record by over a minute in Chicago 4 years ago. Well, here is Agnes Ngetich, and she's still pouring it on. If anything, I reckon she's upped the tempo. She's gone through 8.5K in 24:56. Now, if she covers the next 1,500 meters in, say, 4.5 minutes, she's going to run around 29:30, something like that. It might not be an out-and-out world record, but it's going to be, by a massive margin, a new women's-only world record. The sun bears down. It's getting higher and higher in the sky, but the temperature is kind. The conditions are perfect. Agnes Ngetich, 24:56 at 8.5K. Relin on 25:29. So she's, what, some 33 seconds back. And then Cheptoyak, 25:55, is again quite a long way back. She's another 26 seconds back. But that is still fabulous running by the athletes in second and third places. I cannot believe the tempo being laid down here. Solo run. Gun to take from Agnes Ngetich. Quite fabulous. So, Cheptoyak battling away in third place on her own. Relin in second place, all on her own for virtually the entire distance. And Agnes Ngetich, by choice, on her own out in front. The pace she has laid down has been quite spectacular. She is Quite a girl is Agnes Ngetich. I'm told she's very, very active on social media. She loves TikTok. Very religious, goes to church every Sunday. And by the way, her mum, Veronica, coached by the famous Brother Colm up in the E10 region of the Rift Valley in Kenya, was coached by Brother Colm back in the 1990s. He's a Catholic priest who has coached generations of great athletes to Olympic and world titles, Brother Colm, and he coached Veronica, Agnes Ngetich's mum, and I'm sure much of that knowledge and advice and philosophy, and just wise way of operating, your whole lifestyle, has rubbed off on the daughter, on Agnes Ngetich here. She's only 23, she's a long way from her peak, let's remember that. Ngetich here will get stronger, she will get faster, she can avoid injury, and that is the critical factor for every athlete's career. Just building years and years of training into your body without the interruptions of significant injuries. If she can avoid injury, we are looking at an athlete who could become one of the legends of the sport of distance running. She has, what, probably about a minute and a half to go, something like that. I'm sure she's going to break 30 minutes, which is the world record. 30:01 is the world best for a women-only 10K. But Agnes Ngetich surely on the way to making history here. There is the drone shot for Agnes Ngetich. 29 minutes on the clock for the little Kenyan, just 23 years old. The bronze medalist in the world cross country is not going to be third today. She's going to be the winner. But as she comes in towards the finishing straight here in Brașov in Romania, high in the Carpathian Mountains, thinnish air here, but not as thin as her training environment in the Rift Valley. She heads towards the finish line now. Look at the clock. 29:20. She's just missed the out-and-out world record, but she gets the women's only world record by a massive margin. Unofficially there, 29:25 for Agnes Ngetich. That is one of the quickest times in history. Indeed, it is the second fastest time ever by a woman over 10 kilometers on the road. That is a superhuman running from Agnes Ngetich. And she gets a hug there from Coach Julien, who lives up in the Rift Valley, up in E10 with her. And she is all smiles. This athlete who's been sponsored by Adidas since the age of 16. Well, it's all come to fruition today. She's a fabulous track runner, some very fast times this year. 8:32 she ran in Oslo back in the middle of June for 3,000. Second in their World Championship trials, and second place there going to Catherine Relin. She crosses the line. We didn't quite catch her crossing the line, but from Relin, that is super fast too. Boy, Relin will have run around 30:20, something like that. But about a minute down. And in third place, what a run it's been from Joy Cheptoyek of Uganda. Way under 31 minutes. She's around 30:38, something like that. We'll give you the official times, of course, very quickly. The timers have done a wonderful job here. There is 29:24, 30:14 for Relin, and 30:34 for Joy Cheptoyek. And I can tell you that 29:24 is the second quickest time in history by a woman over 10 kilometers on the road. The only time that's faster in a mixed race, mind you, is by Yalimzerf Yehualo. That is the world record in a mixed race. But we have seen history made this morning on the streets of Brașov. Just fabulous running from Agnes Ngetich. Inspired running. Every race so far this year prior to this morning had produced a personal best for the 23-year-old Kenyan. Well, she's maintained that clean sheet, so to speak, every single time she's raced this year, put on her racing shoes in anger, she's produced a personal best. And what a run for third place by Joy Cheptoyek. Third there in 30:34. And she's had to run on her own as well. For all these first three athletes, there's been very, very difficult conditions to run on your own without anybody around you, to be making your own tempo. Now, there's something about the purity of that, psychologically and physically. You run absolute to the way you feel, but at the same time, that's why most big races have pacemakers, because it's easier to run behind somebody. I'm not sure we ever saw Diana Cheretich, who was supposed to be the pacemaker to 4K, but there's no way she'd have been able to keep up with that world record breaking pace of Agnes Ngetich through the first 5K and beyond. Remember, her time at 5K, 14:25. And then she got, well, almost quicker and quicker, just looking at her winning time, 29:24. Boy, if she'd maintained the first 5K pace, she'd have come home in 28:50, of course, but she slowed marginally through the second half. There it is, a new world best for women only over 10 kilometers on the road. 29:24 by Agnes Ngetich. The Kenyan continues a remarkable streak of great racing through this year. Catherine Reline, she too having to run the whole race on her own in second place, 30:14. That is a massive personal best for Reline. I say with personal best, it's a debut, but what a debut it is. I'm sure a world record debut. Joy Cheptoyak of Uganda, third, 30:34. That's a personal best for her by 13 seconds. And Cheritage, 31:17. Viola Chepengeno, 31:39. Indeed, Faith Chepkoech and Stella Ruto under 32 minutes as well. Those are fabulous finishing times there by the top women here in Brașov. But that will ring out around the world from this part of Romania that Agnes Ngetich is an athlete that the very best in the world, the top 2 or 3 in the world, are going to have to pay attention to now, because I'll tell you what, in a mixed race, that 29:24 would come down to a quicker time still. Quite astonishing how quickly she's gone here this morning, winning by, what, some 50 seconds over Catherine Reline, who herself ran a supremely quick 30:14. I can hardly believe the caliber of running we've seen here this morning from Agnes Ngetich. Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen, if you're on site and hearing this, you have seen what is effectively a world record for a women-only 10 kilometers. Wow, a chance to catch breath. So quick. As I said, the first 7 athletes under 32 minutes. And rightly, the news of this world best for a women-only 10K will ring out around the wires. The world running community will be shaken by the caliber of this run from Agnes Ngetich. New ground has been broached in a women's only 10K, there's no doubt about that. I was making my notes earlier on this morning. I was looking at 3 minutes per kilometer, which obviously meant a 30-minute winning time. And don't let's forget, Ngetich came here with a personal best of 30:27. She's broken her personal best this morning by over a minute. She's gone way below that tempo of 3 minutes per kilometer, and has absolutely grabbed the opportunity here on these high-quality, flat streets of Brașov to produce a very special performance indeed. I think Finn Minchell can speak with Agnes Ngetich if she has got her breath back after that world best. Well, there you can see a good idea of how straight the roads are here in places in Brașov on this rather glorious new complex to the northeast of the city. It has produced super fast times, a world best for women only over 10 kilometers. And here is Phil Minchell with the women's winner, Agnes Ngetich.
Agnes, I know you've hardly had time to get your breath back, but were you thinking about a world record at the start of this race?
World record is a surprise to me. I didn't expect to come with a world record. I just want a BB early 30, like early 30:02 to come with course record, but a world record is really a surprise to me. Yeah.
Well, we were looking at the start of that race. You started so quickly. Were you ever worried that you'd gone off too fast?
No, the moment when the pistol came out 2 times, so I think it was a false start, so I just went. Yeah.
Well, you've done many great things this year. A bronze at the World Cross Country Championships, 6th in the World Championships, and now world record. What's your favourite?
I started a year with a world cross, it was perfect. So I wanted to close a season with a good result, but it was not a world record, but at least it came out. I thank God.
Well, we're looking forward to having you back here next year, defending your title. Thank you very much indeed, Agnes Ngetich. And now back to our race commentator, Tim Hutchings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And yes, a very, very calm and excited Agnes Ngetich there. After that world best, I think many people around the globe watching this will be shaking their heads in wonder how quickly she has gone. 29:24 for Ngetich. I can remember not so many years ago when the 30 minutes hadn't been broached under any conditions, on the track even, for 10 kilometers. So the men's race is underway, or will be underway very, very shortly. And that is, again, a high caliber field. And they will have been inspired, the men, this morning here in Brașov, by that performance from Agnes Ngetich. The majority of the field, the elite men's field, are Kenyan. There is the lineup. Well done, Lagat. Langat is a 25-year-old with a best of 26.55. He was second here last year. Laban Kiplimo, 27.15 performer, has a fabulous range. He's a 3:37, 1500 guy. Let's have a look at some of the other names there as well. Mitai, who's the pacemaker, goes in this one. Mitai will hope to take them out at a very high tempo, under 27-minute tempo, of course. So engines revving in effect for this men's 10K in Brașov. The athletes on the line. So field of some 23 athletes. Sam Atkin goes in there for Great Britain, a 30-year-old, making his road 10K debut. Last year ran 27:31 in London in May. And, 27:33 for track 10K again late. So they're underway. Oh, are they? No, they're not. Are they or are they not? Goodness me. Well, there was a hesitation there. I don't know if they're going to be recalled or if they're going to keep running. When that smoke clears, we'll be able to tell. But the men's 10K field, they are underway. They're off. They are top of picture. You can just see them negotiating that roundabout early on from the start line. Just like the women, their circuit, their course will be 3 laps here in Brașov. Their opening lap of 3,012 meters and then 2 laps of 3,494 meters if you want the tiny margin. So 2 laps of effectively 3.5 kilometers and then 1 lap of just over 3 kilometers to make up the 10K. It is fast, it is flat, and conditions very good indeed. And the pacemaker, well, we're expecting Donald Kiprop Mitai to take them out here. They have quite a hard act to follow to the men with that winning time of Agnes Ngetich, a women's only world best. But 29:24 from Ngetich shows conditions are pretty much perfect. Now, are they going to go with the pacemaker here? Or is it going to break up very quickly as well? The early pacemaker, Stephen Masindet Mororo, he was a pacer in the mile yesterday, built up a big lead mid-race. I thought he might carry on. He was entitled to, as he is this morning. but he dropped aside and let the rest of them battle it out, and it produced a 1-2 for the Netherlands in the men's mile, from Robin van der Riel winning in 4:05.5, a national record for the Netherlands from Stefan Nielsen, the European under-23 champion at 1500 metres, 4:05.8, with Giovanni Filippo of Italy placing third in 4:07. It was a slow tactical affair, that men's mile, yesterday morning. Women's 10k over this last 40 minutes has been anything but that, producing that women's only world best. I prefer to call it a world record. I always think it's a little bit demeaning calling it a world best, as it's quicker than anybody has ever done in that category in history. Just give it a full moniker that it deserves. Call it a world record. I feel interested when he was interviewing Agnes Ngetich after that fabulous run this morning. But if you've joined us in the last few minutes, we'll welcome on board to the second edition of the Brașov Running Festival. We're high in the Carpathian Mountains, about 3 hours drive from Bucharest, the capital. We're to the north of Bucharest at about 800, 900 meters altitude. Conditions on this Sunday morning are quite superb. It's a warmish morning, but not too warm. Indeed, the current temperature, well, it's around 20 degrees centigrade. And this big men's pack moving along steadily. It's already a little bit more normal, should I say, than the early tempo in that women's race, where, of course, Agnes Ngetich went through 1500 meters in about 4:11. I mean, just crazy running from Ngetich, yet she sustained it, maintained it, and went on to that fabulous world best. So here they look to be moving at a slightly more sedate pace, I would say. If they want to hit 27 minutes for 10k, well, they're going to have to run each kilometre in about 2:42. We'll get the 1.5 kilometre split for you. 2:42. So we should see about 4:03 at 1.5 kilometres at 1500 metres. And we're not seeing that just yet. So they have gone out. Yeah. Oh, well, I'll tell you what's come up on my timing system is that they've gone through 1500 in 4 minutes exactly. Wow, if that is correct, they are shifting. There it is on screen, 4 minutes for this big pack, the top 10 all locked together. And Donald Mitai there, the pacemaker, just bouncing along out in front. Quite inexperienced. He lives in E10. He's a Chelsea fan, Chelsea Football Club, the London Football Club. We've had a tough old time the last couple of years, Donald Mitai. But they are staying in contact with him just. I don't like it when a pacemaker builds a gap on the pack because it defeats the object. Experienced pacemakers, if they start getting away from the pack, will know to slow down and then gradually pick up the tempo again. You have to really be able to think on your feet as a good pacemaker. Mitai at the moment doing a good job. And this men's field moving along very, very nicely indeed. So 1500 meters in 4 minutes exactly. And that pack, actually just checking, is about 12 strong. Between 4 minutes and 4:02 at 1500, but that was a little while ago now as they approach the 2.5 kilometre point. But you can see why athletes come back to this venue after last year's really quick races, where the men's race was won by Nicholas Kipkore-Kimeli in 26:51 from Weldon Lagat. Weldon Lagat is back. He was second, 26:55 last year. That is his personal best. Although, funnily enough, can you believe this? He ran 26:55 twice. He ran it winning in Valencia on the 15th of January this year, after producing 26:55 here in Brașov a year ago. He's strong though, Weldon Lagat. He's a 59:55 half marathon runner, produced that in the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon back in February. Had a disappointing time at the Tokyo Olympics 2 years ago, finished in 20th place in the 10,000. You always expect anybody in a Kenyan vest in the middle of long distances at a major championship to produce something special, but he had a really bad day at the office maybe he is just more comfortable on the roads. There's that pack just a few meters down on the pacemaker. Massindet. Massindet leading the early stages. We're expecting him to be the pace to be taken over by Donald Mitai after that. He has run 28.17. That was in Prague about 4 or 5 years ago, Mitai. But that 28.17 was during a half marathon. He actually slowed and ended up running about 62 minutes, but it does show that he's strong. Look at the bounce there from Massindet. He looks so comfortable. It's easy to be that way when you know you're going to drop out in just a few minutes' time. But he is bouncing along quite majestically in front. And the others, well, just keeping a nice steady tempo in that pack. What, about 5 or 6 meters down? I'd like to see them close up on him. Don't want that gap to grow. And then once we get into the meat of the race, so to speak, only 7.5 minutes on the clock at the moment, we'll identify more of those elite athletes for you. Well done, Langat. He's the quickest on paper, the only athlete there with a personal best under 27 minutes. They come through then. 8 minutes on the clock there. The 3 kilometer time will come up very shortly. Remember, 1,500 meters, 4 minutes. 8:03 for 3K. Well, that's very, very healthy indeed. That's, as you can see, they're all there at 3K. And that is really good to see. They're taking the challenge laid down by the pacemaker. Or rather, following his lead, at least. But they are all there. Massindet leading, Mitai is there as well. Shadrach, Kipchirri, Ruto, Laban, Kiplimo, Amos Kurga, Dennis Kibet, Kitillo, Sam Atkin is up there as well, the British athlete, 8:05 at 3K for him. Weldon Lagat, the pre-race favourite, also in that lead pack. I'm sure it'll begin to break up soon. So only at about 3.5K at the moment, but 8:03 at 3K, well, that has, I mean, it's not even on my chart, it's so fast. It is a sub 27-minute tempo. It's deceptive though, isn't it? Because the pacemaker there, Donald Mitai, looking so comfortable, he's bouncing along. And of course he will be able to drop out as and when he chooses, while the others have got to maintain this tempo. So it is very, very, you can be fooled by how comfortable he looks as the pacemaker. But they are clipping along really well now. We're about 1/3 distance, nearly 10 minutes on the clock, and still we've got a pretty big pack. Just looking, I think Sam Atkin is still in there, the 30-year-old Briton who's had all sorts of injury problems these last couple of years. He was 9th in the European Championships, 5,000 meters last year in Munich. Super talented, the lad from Grimsby. He's a Grimsby Town FC supporter, and obviously, I say obviously a Man United fan as well. Says his inspiration comes from Mo Farah. Sam Atkin, track best 27.26, and he's on schedule to probably better that this morning if he can maintain this tempo. So just over 10 minutes on the clock then. And I wonder if they will get anywhere near to achieving the legendary run of Agnes Ngetich we saw just some 15-20 minutes ago. If you joined us in the last few minutes here in Brașov, the second edition of the Brașov Running Festival, it reminds you that Agnes Ngetich setting a women's only world best, I want to call it a world record, but a women only world best this morning, 29.24 here on the streets of Brașov, winning by 50 seconds from Relin, from Catherine Relin, who herself ran incredibly well to his 30.14. And if she'd had a little bit of help, who knows, maybe Agnes Ngetich would have got an out-and-out world record for the women's 10K. Well, the men's world record is 26:24 by Ronix Kipruto. That was in Valencia back in January 2020, well over 3.5 years ago now. I'm not sure we're going to see something of that magnitude this morning, but if they could get under 27 minutes, that would again would stamp the further credibility on the race here in Brașov, on the streets of this town, where the weather seems to be perfect day after day. I'm sure they get their tough weather in the winter months, but last year we had glorious conditions here in Brașov, and this year quite glorious too. So, 12.5 minutes on the clock, nearly 13 minutes here in Brașov. They've gone through 3K in 8:03 in this men's 10 kilometers, and the 5K split will come through very shortly. They've gone through 5K, as you can see. In fact, they've got 5K just over 5K to go. So again, me misreading the countdown clock. The elite men timer there means they're going through 5K about now. Have they really gone through 5K in about 13:20? That would be incredibly quick. That's a great time on the track, never mind about on the roads. 26:40, well, that would put them within touching distance almost of the world record. The out-and-out world record, as I said, by Ronix Kipruto is 26:24. I'm told, by the way, that time by Agnes Ngetich, 29:24, is actually a world record. It's not a world best. I was told earlier it might be a world best, but it can be quite correctly entitled a world record. 5K 13:30. Nice, good, sensible tempo, something to build upon. They may yet break 27 minutes here. There is that pack of what, still some 10 strong, covered by a tiny margin here in Brașov, as we see that field now past halfway. Weldon Langat beginning to move to the fore. There he is, all in black to the front of that group. Moving really nicely too. Good, smooth running style he's got. And I'll tell you what really strikes me about Weldon Langat too. He's well muscled, isn't he? He's a big fella. There's a little bit of the Kenenisa Bekele about him. Those legs, wow. We're so used to seeing in the top East African runners, men and women, long, lean legs with very, very long stride and not a great deal of muscle mass. But Weldon Langat, boy, he is a solid citizen and moving really nicely and looking confident now. 15 minutes on the clock. He was second here last year, so he knows this circuit well. Second by 4 seconds to Nicholas Kopkirayas, winning 26:51. He's a 27:24 athlete. That was in Nairobi at altitude, over 10,000 meters on the track a couple of years ago. He has broken 60 minutes for the half marathon, just 59:55, although I'd suggest that is due for some serious revision. He could probably take a minute off that. And, he's only run 3 half marathons in his life, but they've all been solid. 60:57 in his debut in Prague last year when he was 4th, and then 10th in Valencia last year in 60:28, and then 6th in RAK, the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon, about an hour outside Dubai, earlier on this year in February in 59:55. So the pack's gradually breaking up. That was a shot of the chasing pack. And now moving to the fore is Amos Kurgat. Amos Kurgat, the 31-year-old with a best of 27:35. That was during, however, the Copenhagen half marathon back in 2019. So Amos Kurgat looking very, very strong indeed. Dennis Kibet there in the blue, also looking quite comfortable. 5th here last year, Dennis Kibet. Ran 27:35 for that 5th place, just under a year ago. This year he's run 3 half marathons, 3rd in Naples and 8th in Herzogenaurach, and then 6th in Kigali, back on the 11th of June at altitude in 64.5 minutes. But Kurgat in the blue, 24-year-old, striding out nicely behind the taller figure there of Amos Kurgat. And the gap's beginning to grow a little bit. That Langat back in 3rd place now. Well, there's the leading trio. It's a great shot from a drone with 3.5 kilometers to go. They've passed 5K in 13:30, 1 lap to run. They've just negotiated the 2nd circuit. Remember, the opening circuit, 3,012 meters. The 2nd and 3rd laps, 3,494 meters, just under 3.5 kilometers. So they've got under 3.5 kilometers to go. And they've gone through 6.5K in 17:33. So, if we take off, say, 80 seconds from that, that gives you 16:13. That would be their time at 6K. And if I then go, excuse me for extrapolating and calculating verbally here, if we then go to 6K in 16:13, well, again, they're way down there. That's almost exactly on 27-minute tempo. So they haven't really slowed much in the last couple of kilometers since going through 5K in 13:30. They are moving well. Looking here at Edward Zakayo of Kenya, just 21 years old. Zakayo has a personal best of 28:05. He's going to smash that today if he maintains this. That was for a 7th place in Lille last year. Been very close to that time at Lille this year. He's 28:05 last year in Lille, 28:10 at Lille this year. But this morning, surely here in Brașov, he's going to go a lot quicker. He's a good track runner. 13:03 for 5,000 in Rome back in 2019, and 27:35 at altitude last year. But less than 3K to go here in Brașov in this men's 10K in glorious Sunday morning sunshine. And there's still a pack of 3. I just worry that maybe they're beginning to watch each other now, rather than chasing the clock, chasing a really quick time, because you could throw a blanket over the 3 of them, literally, at the moment. Langat there. Well done, Langat in 2nd place, just tucked in. And I think now he's thinking more about the win than he is perhaps a really fast time. He went to the front, what, about 10 minutes ago, led for a few minutes, and then eased back and was happy to let Amos Kurgat come through. Kurgat, as I said, has a best of 27:35 during the Copenhagen Half Marathon a few years ago. He's raced a lot in Japan, has spent much of his career in Japan, has Kurgat. Indeed, he's a half marathon specialist. I counted that he's done 19 half marathons over the last 8 years, Amos Kurgat, so he is strong, there's no doubt about that. In Copenhagen, when he went through in 27:35, he lasted well back in 2019, finishing in 59:37 for the half marathon. His personal best is 59:34, so Amos Kurgat has got enormous strength. Has he got the speed to go with that? His 5,000 best is 13:21. I should say only 13:21, because for men of this caliber, that is not super quick. But Denis Kibet now moves to the fore yet again in that striking blue vest. He hasn't got any top track form. He was 5th here last year, remember, in 27:35. Well, he's on schedule to better that by some 20 seconds or more, Denis Kibet, at the moment. This year, he was 9th in Naples back in February. Good quick race that. It's a sub 60-minute course. But he was only 9th in Naples in 61:06. Well, he's obviously in much better form than that. And he seems determined, Denis Kibet in the blue, just to keep his nose in front, doesn't he? Or maybe the other two are just allowing him to. Amos Kurgat, a figure in the centre there, and to the left of those 3 is Weldon Langat, the 2nd placer here last year. this is becoming a little bit of a cat and mouse affair, such that back in 4th place they are gradually being reeled in. I'm trying to see who that is back in 4th place. I think it might be Ruto, Shadrach Ruto. I think it actually might be Edward Zakaya Pingua, the 21-year-old Ken in 4th place. Here's a best of 28.05. Well, he's going to better that by a massive margin. Here he is. Yes, that is Edward Zakayo, who's been close to his personal best this year of 28.05 with that 28.10. Won the African Championship 5,000 metres back in 2018, and actually on the Gold Coast in the Commonwealth Games back in 2018. Took a bronze medal in the 5,000. So he's a former world junior champion at 5,000 metres as well. 4th in the Commonwealth Games 10,000 last year in Birmingham. So he has really good form. He's a 13.03 5,000 runner at his best, Zakayo. So he could be a real threat if he can regain contact with this trio. He's in orange in 4th place. If he can regain contact with this trio in front, that's a tough gap though as they begin to pick it up maybe. Amos Kurgat, I just sense, injecting a little bit of pace. Less than 1.5 kilometres to go. And I think now they're beginning to wind it up. I think they've lost a little bit of time against the clock, against the potential finishing time. Having got to halfway in 13:30, I think they're probably outside 27-minute tempo now, but if they wind it up over this last mile, or most of a mile that's left, then we could see a sub 27-minute clocking. Good, quick, aggressive running now from Amos Kurgat. So there it is, elite men at 8.5k. And Amos Kurgat from Weldon Langat, and the Kitillo in 3rd place, and Pingua it is, Edward Zakayo Pingua, back in 4th place at 8.5k, 23.06 there at 8.5k. Now, Shadrach Ruto, further 12 seconds back, doesn't look like he's going to make the top 4, but now there is a surge, and it is from Dennis Kibet. Although, where is Langat? There's the leading pair. And it is still aggressive running up at the front over this last mile or so. An acceleration now from Weldon Langat. He's bided his time. He's sat in, watching the other athletes, the two around him, for this last 10 minutes or so. But the 25-year-old Weldon Langat Kipkirui, to give him his full name, now beginning to turn the screw. Surely only just 800 meters to run, and Langat beginning to forge a gap on the athlete in 2nd place. Langat looking strong. In 2nd place, Amos Kurgat. In 3rd place, Dennis Kibet in the blue. He has indeed been caught by Edward Zakayo in 4th. These two will have their own little battle for that 3rd and final spot on the rostrum. But the gap is growing now for Weldon Langat. He has produced the goods, albeit in the last kilometre. And watch the clock, this could be super quick. 26:24 for Weldon Langat is the world best by Ronix Kipruto. I don't think we're going to see that beaten here this morning, but we could yet see a very fast time. Under 27 minutes would be special, as we see the big car park and the shopping complex here in CORESI, this new suburb to the northeast of the city of Brașov. Well, Weldon Langat still looks so calm, doesn't he? I mentioned earlier what a fabulously proportioned physique he's got. He's not long and lean or thin in inverted commas. He's quite well muscled, looks like a track runner, and moving really well now. About a minute running to go, maybe less. There is Weldon Langat with just a few hundred meters to run, and the gap has grown enormously. Literally over the last couple of minutes, it's grown from 4 or 5 meters, well, to maybe 30 or 40 meters. Here is the battle for second, third and fourth. And I'll tell you what, the two in third and fourth, Edward Zakayo in the orange, he's now moved into third. Denis Kebet back in fourth. They are catching the athlete in second place. There's no doubt about it. The gap is closing and we have a real battle going on for second, third and fourth as we see the leader now make the final turn. Weldon Langat, remember, second here last year in 26.55. 27 minutes has just gone by. He comes to the line to take the title. The Transylvania Brașov Running Festival 10K of 2023 is won in just outside 27 minutes. And the winning time by Langat, well, he bided his time. It did become a little bit of a cat and mouse affair through the second half. Really, they lost the chances of a super quick time between 5K and 8K, I think, but it matters not. That is still really quick. Fabulous running from Weldon Langat. 10 seconds slower than last year, but he will be all the happier with the victory. Remember last year, having to accept second. Well, in second place was Amos Kurgat. His time 27.12, the winning margin then 7 seconds. And in third place, Zakayo in 27.14, another couple of seconds back. And in fourth, 27.17. Really good packing from these fellas. Quebec finishing in fourth place, 27.17. There it is, the top four times. And in fifth place, Rutov in 27.40. That's where the big gap was. That first four forged a big gap over the chasing group. Although the majority of athletes this morning in the women's and the men's 10K races have had lonely journeys around the three-lap circuit here in Brașov. Confirmation of that win for Weldon Langat, 27.05 by 7 seconds the better over Amos Kurgat. Langat made second last year into first this year, albeit a little bit slower. Edward Zakayo Pingua, 27.14 in third place. Denis Kebet Katillo, well under 27.30 as well in fourth place though with 27.17. And indeed the first 9 men under 28 minutes. Really good running here in Brașov, yet again in this Brașov Running Festival of 2023. I can tell you, by the way, after that fabulous running in the men's race, that Agnes Ngetich in the women's race actually set a world record for a women-only 5 kilometers as well, en route to her 10K time this morning. She went through 5K in 14:25. That was a world record for a women-only 5K. So fancy that. At the halfway point in a 10K, you set a world record, and then you go on to another world record at the finish line. Remember her time, some 40 minutes or so ago, 29:24. Agnes Ngetich. Quite brilliant. Well, a lot to celebrate this morning in the 10Ks here, the second edition of the Brașov Running Festival and the women's 10K, a world record for a women's only 10K. She set Agnes Ngetich a world record at 5K as well, en route to that 10K world record, 29:24, her final time, 14:25 at 5K. And that men's race too, brilliant running from Langat there, Weldon Langat, 27:05 to turn second place last year into first, with the first 8 men going under 28, first 9 men going under 28 minutes. And I'm joined by the race director, Daniel Santahed. Daniel, I know that the mile races last night, you were hoping for really quick times. We didn't get that, but this morning, wow, what a couple of races we've just seen.
We are really excited. You could see that also on my face. It's what we dreamed for, and it's what we worked for. We were talking about this potential record with Agnes' team for a while. We knew that the conditions are ideal. We were just hoping that the weather will cope, And it's great that we managed to put the women's race the first, because already it got 3 degrees hotter in the men's race. So it was an ideal timing, ideal condition, and look what happened. We are absolutely excited, and we are really happy that we managed to show that this race is not a one-hit wonder, because, you know, last year everybody was saying, yeah, it was a very fast race, but maybe this will not happen again. Well, here we are, and yeah, what can I say?
Well, what you can say, Daniel, what I can say is congratulations. It was the second fastest time ever in the history of women's 10K running. Only Yahualaw's world record with male pacemakers, 29:14, was quicker. That was 18 months or so ago in Castellón in Spain. But 29:24 for Agnes Ngetich this morning, that is a clear indication to me that in a mixed race with male pacemakers helping her for much of the distance, she can smash the world record for 10K. You know, probably go below 29 minutes. That might not be here, because I know you'd like the idea of women's only world record. You've got that now. Would you consider maybe having male pacemakers next year so that you can get the one and only world record?
Well, probably, as always, you have people who are commenting and they will say that this is not the real world record. So, yeah, most probably we will try to organize the real world record for those who are negativists, let's say. But look, this is too early for any decisions. We just need to take this competition to an end, and then to enjoy together with all our colleagues the fact that after 1 year of work we managed to put what we planned on paper also in reality. And you probably know from the first time that we met that everybody was really skeptical around this race, because it's a new race, and saying that it's hard to achieve what we planned. Well, it happened, and we're going to continue. And our goal is to have year by year the fastest 10K in the world here in Brașov, Romania, because we have a great circuit.
I know you're a very proud son of Brașov, but it's a city that I had not heard of before. You know, I guess it's a big tourism a big tourism center, but Brașov being put on the map here with the sport of road racing, which is a gloriously huge sport throughout the world, must be so pleasing for you. You know, just to give the profile to the city and the region, these glorious mountains around us here, these Carpathian mountains, must give you that pretty warm feeling as well. So it's kind of a double whammy for you: the pleasure of loving athletics, being able to see a world record here on the streets of Brașov this morning, but also your hometown. That means so much more.
Yeah, it means a lot, and not only it means the fact that we were not wrong when we choose to do it at home, because, you know, we had a lot of options. We looked for this course for almost 3 years, saying that we need something really spectacular, and now we can say that our research was confirmed, and yeah, it's absolutely ecstatic to see Brașov becoming actually the capital of 10K running, because we have 3 of the fastest 10 results in history in the men's race, and now women's only world record, which is an extraordinary achievement. And I hope that all the community in this town will understand what incredible work we did for the city.
Absolutely, yeah, and conditions are glorious. And I think you've got the timing right this morning too, because look, you can see from those pictures, it's going to be very, very warm today. You know, in an hour or two's time, it's going to be 25, 27, 28 degrees. That's too hot, really, for brilliant 10K running. But starting this morning at 10 o'clock was just right. The temperature, the conditions were perfect. And I have to say, you know, what a great circuit you developed here.
We developed a great circuit, and not only, I think that we tried to create all the conditions that this race will become one of the most athlete-friendly competitions in the world.
Well, I certainly hope so, Daniel. We will work hard to make sure that everybody hears about this race. You should be loud and proud yourself about what's unfolded here this morning on the streets of Brașov. But listen, thanks a lot for the chat.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Okay, thank you. So, Phil Mitchell.
Well done, Langat. Well, second last year, first this year. Take us through the race from your viewpoint.
Sorry.
Tell us about the race.
Okay. The race was good, but the body did not respond well before at the starting. But when we reached at 5 kilometers, then now my body started big. So that's we see we didn't run under 27. But that is good time.
Looked like a tough last 2 kilometers. What was going through your mind? Because there was Dennis and Amos there at that time.
No, in my mind, I know when it reach 8K, I know what I can do. Yeah.
Were you able to watch the women's race? Agnes Ngetich, world records over 5 kilometers and 10 kilometers. What did that mean to you?
Well, it was fantastic for Agnes. That is congratulations. When I see Agnes running an world record, I see let me try, but my body was not ready for that, and I thank that.
Well, congratulations, well done. We look forward to seeing you back here in 12 months' time. Congratulations as the winner of the 2023 Transylvania 10 kilometers road race.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, Malden Langat saying he would love to have chased a world record this morning, and the body wasn't quite up to it. Well, what it was up to was winning here this morning in the streets of Brașov in a very quick time, 27:05. Taking a look at the all-time lists, only some 20 men have ever gone quicker than that in the history of 10K running. And had it not been for it becoming a little bit of a tactical affair maybe between perhaps 6 and 8K, I think they would have gone under 27 minutes here this morning. It matters not. Fabulous racing in that men's contest and quite astonishing running from Agnes Ngetich in that women's race. A world record for a women-only 10 kilometers. I'm not going to call it a race because it was an exhibition run by Agnes Ngetich. Quite brilliant from start to finish. Went through 5K in 14:25. That was a world record for a women-only race of a 5K, and then she doubled up and came home in 29:24 for a world record in a women's-only 10K, and the second fastest time in history under any conditions over 10 kilometers. There will be more to come next year, I'm sure, but for now, thank you very much for joining us here in Brașov. It's a very, very special morning of 10K racing that we've witnessed. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Bye-bye.